Hey, it's Tommy Allen from TommyAllenMusic.com. Welcome. This is part two, Aynsley Lister. We're going to lift our finger off the pause button and jump straight to it. And then we come on to the British Blues Awards for Best Songwriter and Best Song Home. So I'm guessing that'll be for the album that you done on your own with your own label called Home. Is that right? Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Well, so
2013 released, yeah?
That's right, yeah. So I'd been with Alan Robinson up until like 2012, and we decided to. We both felt like things had gone off the boil a bit. He was kind of into new things, you know. I wanted to change again, and at that point, I'd been with my then girlfriend, now my wife, but I'd been with Steph for 5 or 6 years, and
she's from the business as well, isn't she?
Well, to start with, she would just come along with me to the gigs because she's a massive music fan. I mean, we actually met at a concert, and because we're both into the same sort of stuff, so we kind of just met through the music, and to start with, she would just come with me as my girlfriend, and she'd be hanging out and just enjoying the music and just the whole thing. And then I suppose she started to sort of just take an interest in what I was doing and how I was doing it, and the fact that Alan was my manager. And well, what does Alan actually do? And so she would come to most of the gigs with me, and she would be talking to promotions. She's a very social person. She's very approachable, and so she started to build it. So a lot of people got to know Steph as my partner, and she started to sort of, I suppose she just took an interest in the business. Well, why is that working like that? And well, why are you doing that? And well, how does that? Well, all right. Well, how does that work out? And just lots of questions asking me, and a lot of it I didn't have the answer. I was like, oh, I don't know. I'll ask Alan. And when I started to get the answers, I suppose it's like anything. You start to realise that there's changes that could be made here for the better. And like I say, and Steph was coming along to the gigs, and just it was a gradual thing. But as my relationship with Alan was sort of starting to deteriorate a little bit, like I say, it's a bit like with Thomas. There was no fallout or anything like that. But I suppose things just go off the boil. It's not the most exciting thing anymore, and you just think, well, maybe it's time for a change before it gets, too ugly. So I decided to stop working with Alan, and Steph just started to get involved, just helping me just book the gigs, just doing the logistics of the whole thing. And then of course the next thing was, well, what do we do about an album? You've not got, you're not signed with Alan's label anymore. You're not with Ruf. You don't have a label. And Steph's thing was, well, why don't we set one up? And straight away, my immediate reaction was, no way. There's no way. You can't do that. Artists on this circuit, people just don't do it. Or anybody who tries to do it fails very, very quickly. It's very, very complicated, And Steph's thing is she's fearless. She's a doer, not a talker. And Steph's thing is that if she says she's going to do something, she will actually just go and do it. And her thing was, well, why does nobody do it, and why do people fail? Well, it can't be that hard. And I said, believe me, it's terrible. It's very complicated. Setting a record label up, distribution, contracts, figures, accounts, all that. I was like, no. I was like, I'll just find another label. She said, well, look, what's the worst that can happen? She says, how's about? She says, we try it, and if it doesn't work, then you can just go back to another label. Just record an album or just send it around to the other labels. But you're not going to lose anything from trying. And if you don't try it, you'll never know. And that whole thing of like, well, why not? I couldn't give her a valid reason why we shouldn't give it a go. So we just planned towards it, and we recorded an album, financed it ourselves.
Did you get a loan for it, like a proper business, or did you just?
Well, it was the only way, because
right, okay.
I didn't want to. What I didn't want to do is be seen to suddenly go in all DIY, where you've been with two established labels and then suddenly you're doing it all yourself. Like, really? I didn't want anybody to doubt me. And also I'd got used to doing albums at a certain quality level and spend, not going in the studio for a day and knocking out an album, going in for a couple of weeks and actually spending time and crafting it. That's what I was used to. And I wanted to keep it at the same standard. So the decision we made was we're going to do everything exactly the same. We're going to invest the same amount of money in it. And we're just going to use the same business model as your last two labels. They put up the money. You go to a studio, you record it, you mix it, you master it, you get artwork done, you get a distribution deal, all this kind of stuff. But Steph, she just said, "Look, I'll take care of all that stuff. Don't you? You just worry about writing a decent album, and I'll do all the other stuff." And she was still working a day job at this point. So for the first year of Straight Talkin Records been around, I think at least 6 to 12 months of that first year, she was still working a full-time job.
And do you have kids at all?
What's that? Sorry.
Do you have kids at all?
We do now. I mean, I've got two older kids, and me and Steph now we've got a little 2-year-old.
Right. Okay.
But yeah. So she was still. I mean, her background is in sort of graphic design and marketing and social mediaing and stuff. So, and because she is a very social person, she built up all these relationships with all these venues, and she'd come on tour with me around Germany and stuff. And of course, all the promoters would know her on first name terms because she was there at the gigs. And the one thing, no disrespect to Alan or Thomas or anyone like that, but a lot of the time these guys that run record labels, they're not at ground level. They're kind of a little bit detached from it. And I think Alan, in working with Alan for 3 or 4 years, he probably only came to a handful of gigs, if that. But Steph was always there. So, and the promoters seemed to like the fact that she was my partner, and also she was there, and they could actually get hold of her as well. That at the end of the night, so they could discuss the next show or talk strategies or whatever. So that whole thing of me and Steph working together and her setting the label up and being completely self-contained, everything in-house, it was a gradual thing. It wasn't suddenly just like, oh, right, suddenly the girlfriend gets involved. We kind of laughed about it to start with because it's very Spinal Tap, isn't it? The girlfriend suddenly gets involved, sacks the manager. It wasn't like that at all. But I could see how a lot of people might have seen that. And I know that I'm pretty sure some of the fans that had been following me for years kind of frowned upon it and kind of, oh my God, what is he doing? Does he realize what he's doing? And I think there was probably a lot of skeptics around when we first did it. But that first album we did, we ended up with the same worldwide distribution that my last two labels.
Who's that with?
What are they called? Cadiz. Is it Cadiz? Proper Music or something?
Oh, okay. So they took you on their books as Straight Talkin Records.
Yeah, I think it's Cadiz. I think they're distributor. I don't know.
Right.
But it's like, I think it's Proper Music, or it was.
Okay.
Proper Music or something. But whoever it was, because I as you can tell, I don't really get involved with this stuff. Steph, basically, she runs that. She's the business head. She's the strategist. That's a word. It is now. And I'm the music creative type person. And we have our own areas that we work in, and we don't really overlap. We don't tread on each other's toes. I mean, it's like I've got my cave here, which is my music room. I've got all my stuff in here. I spend most of my days in here, and she's in the other part of the house, in her little world, doing her thing, and it's always worked really well. And that first album that we released, Home, which was released in 2013. It's the first album on our label, and I think it outsold the previous two records pretty quickly.
That's really good. Did Straight Talkin Records sign Aynsley Lister? Two separate businesses, sort of thing. You don't know.
I don't know. I mean, we have been asked a number of times, are you going to be signing other artists?
Yeah.
And we did consider it at one point, but then the main reason Straight Talkin Records was set up was basically it's just a vehicle to release my records.
Yeah.
Like I said, we both live off it. That's what we do. We both work together in it full time. So with the release of the album and its, its success, then she quit her day job. So since 2013, might have even been 2014, she might have even kept it on for a while. But certainly the last six and a half years, Steph's been, full time with the music as well. So we just do it between us now.
Okay, and that album brought in the best songwriter and best song.
Yeah,
for the song Home for British Blues Awards.
Yeah.
And how was that?
Yeah, cool. To be honest with you, I mean, I wasn't even really aware. I mean, I knew that the British Blues Awards were happening and stuff. But half the time I'm just kind of stuck in my own little world. And then I realised I'd been nominated. I was like, oh wow, didn't think I'd win anything. But then I got this this award for the song as well, Home. So yeah. So it's I suppose it's that acknowledgement thing, isn't it? It's that, whatever it is, it's just, if you get an award for something, the best song. I mean, it's subjective, isn't it? Because you give this one song to 10 people, and some people are going to like it, some people are not going to like it. But yeah, it was very, very nice.
And what's the latest release? Is that the latest one, 2013?
Well, no, the most recent album I did came out in winter 2016. So, getting on for 4 years ago, and that was called Eyes Wide Open.
Right.
So that was a second studio album that we recorded on Straight Talkin Records, and I should have actually been in the studio about 5 weeks ago to record a new one.
Right.
Which is way overdue, but a few reasons for that. As I mentioned earlier, me and Steph, we've got a 2-year-old now, little Xander. So the last couple of years has been busy, and we've had some other family stuff as well. So the last couple of years has kind of just been not taking time out, but just focus has been on other things. But then we just realised and thought, well, last album came out in 2016. I'm still touring the same album. I'm ready to do something new. People are ready to hear something new. So as soon as I can get into the studio after the lockdown, then we're going to be doing another one. Yeah.
Okay. And with your live band?
No, actually, interestingly, because the last couple of albums I've done with my live musicians, but this time I'm taking elements of the Equilibrium album where I'm actually working with different musicians, because I liked that whole thing of people hearing tracks and just on impulse just going to go, oh, well, what about this? Rather than, when you work with musicians all the time, you get to know each other very well, and you come up with you create a sound, and it's a very familiar place to be. But sometimes when you're working with musicians you've never worked with, they can just bring a real spark and a real kind of imagination to it, and that was one of the parts I really liked in Equilibrium. I mean, the mix and the style of it is obviously a different thing, but the whole thing of working with, I say, Robbie McIntosh. We had Paul Beavis on drums, another guy called Simon Johnson who played guitar and bass. They're kind of session guys that play with. I think Paul plays with Andy Fairweather Low. But again, they just came in and just interpreted my songs how they heard it on first listen. So there's none of this kind of thing where you spend months and months doing it and doing it.
Right.
So I just decided that I wanted to try that approach again, but kind of in a different environment. So, and trying to get a live thing as well, where you get a lot of people playing together at the same time, rather than sort of doing every single thing separately.
Okay, so out of all your albums, what is your favourite one?
Out of my albums?
Yeah.
Oh, what?
If you had to buy, you're at your gig and you had to buy one CD, what one would it be?
I would say probably one of my last two, okay. Home or Eyes Wide Open. Just because I suppose the material that's on there, I feel like, I mean, this is just a personal thing, and as you'll know as well, when you're writing songs, you're super critical of your own stuff. I just think I'm better at writing now. I think I'm a better songwriter now than I was 15, 20 years ago. I understand it better now, so I feel like the last couple of albums have got some really good content on there, some good substance, and I'm proud of the songs I've written and the performances as well. I mean, when I used to, no, go on.
I can say, do you reckon you've done your best album yet, or do you reckon that's still in you to come out?
No. There's plenty more.
plenty more in the pot.
Yeah, no, I've not dried up. No, far from it. I mean, this album that I'm just about to record, I've written at least 2 albums worth. So We've actually been going through a process. It's actually this elimination process of which songs to leave off. It's like, well, I really like that one. We got too many of that kind of song. And I mean, it's a good. To be honest, I've never been in this position where I've had so much material for an album.
Who do you share that information with? Like, which songs go on the album? Is it you and the missus, or you and your dad, or?
I mean, I will listen to people whose opinion I trust, but Steph, and not just because she's my wife, but her judgment with music. She's got an incredible ear, and she can hear things straight away. If something's working, or she thinks it's got potential, sometimes when you're writing and you're in the thick of it, and when I write, I basically have to just lock myself away, and I'm writing and trying stuff out. And sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees, but sometimes I'd play stuff to Steph, and she'd be like, "Oh, that one, that you've got to develop that." And then sometimes an idea where I'll be like, "Oh no, I think this is cool. I've got this riff," and she'd be like, doesn't really go anywhere. She's really good, and she's brutally honest as well, which is to be honest with it, the name of the label, Straight Talkin Records, because Steph she's very straight talking. She says what she thinks, and in the nicest possible way, but she's very honest, and she'll tell me what she thinks. And of course, I'll send stuff to my dad and a few musical friends whose opinion I trust. But again, when you're writing, when you got demos, it's quite a naked thing. When you're sending a demo to someone, it's not finished. It might have some really dodgy bits of singing or playing in it that it's just a demo, isn't it? So for me to play my demos to someone, it's you've got to be quite special to hear with my demos. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the time, in terms of the final song selection, that's something that I'll probably finalise with Steph, just because she is the person that markets me and sells me as an artist, and she also knows, she understands the market, she understands the audience, she knows what people want, she knows what people like, yeah, she's very switched on when it comes to business and strategies and stuff, whereas I'm kind of, I'd do 5 blues shuffles in A, and I think, oh great, because I'm a guitarist, but of course not everybody wants to hear 5 blues shuffles in A, do they? Not that I write loads of blues shuffles in A, but
So what's your method for songwriting?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. I don't have one.
Well, do you lock yourself in this room and just write, or?
Yeah, I mean, I come in here. I mean, I've got guitars everywhere. I've got amps, a keyboard, just stuff. And I'll come in here and I'll make sounds. And a lot of the time, one song will never be written the same as the next one. Like, it depends. If I've got an idea, like a subject idea, like on the last album, I wrote a song called Il Grande Mafioso, and that is a gangster kind of song. And I just had this idea to write a song about a gangster movie, and the whole, creating a kind of a mood and a scene. So, I mean, I'll show you this now, actually. So, when you listen to sort of James Bond films, you've always got this kind of... Okay. I was going to try the vibrato. My amp's broken. It's not working. Okay, so you've kind of got this... Normally, the thing I was going to show you, you get the vibrato effect on like an old Fender amp or something.
Yeah.
What's wrong with it? But yeah, so I had this idea to write, lyrically the subject to be about, dodgy money changing hands and like a smoky, dingy bar and a card game in a corner and dimly lit room, all that kind of thing. Sort of almost a bit kind of like if you read a good book, the words that you're reading in the book, you can almost you build up a scene in your mind. And I got quite into lyrics and stuff a few years ago. And so I thought, and I just challenged myself. I thought, right, I'm going to write a song where the lyrics will just paint quite a vivid picture of what's going on in this kind of scene in a movie. And I want the music to match it and the atmosphere and stuff. And I'd say that's probably I'm probably quite proud of that song. In terms of, you're asking about, songs or whatever, or albums that I'm happy with, but that's probably one. But every song's different. I mean, sometimes it might be just a vocal melody, it might be some lyrics I come up with, and depending on the sentiment of the lyrics or what the subject is, I'll come up with some music that would go with it. Other times it might just be like a guitar groove. I don't know. I can't play. Hang on. So I came up with this groove a few weeks back. Hang on. That's it. Here we go. Just like this kind of chord sequence thing with a little bit of a...
Yeah, that sounds nice.
I don't know what it's going to be, but it's kind of quite a somber, kind of like quite a bit moody. It's not a super happy thing. So I will come up with some lyrics that will kind of go with that. I suppose it's a bit kind of, a bit John Mayery, I suppose. That sort of a thing. So I would come up with, if that was the verse or whatever, I would come up with some lyrics that would go with that. And then you sort of listen to, where does the song need to go, like a pre-chorus or a chorus? Do you want a hook line vocally, or do you want a hook line as a guitar part? Every song is different, really. So, and there's so many kinds of songs. I mean, like I say, earlier on when I was saying about that guitar riff I came up with when I was 21, Everything I Need, I couldn't come up with that now because I don't think like that. I mean, when I started out, everything that I wrote was all guitar. It was all about the guitar. Whereas now, when I'm writing, I'm trying to create music as a whole that's got good melodies, it's got good lyrical content, it's got good stories, good. I'm not going to say message. I hate it when artists say, "Oh, they've got their message they want to put across." I don't like that saying. I wouldn't say I have a message to deliver to anyone. I just like to, I suppose, write and record music that moves people, just that connects with people, where people just get it, it clicks with them. And yeah, I suppose if you're a songwriter, probably the biggest compliment anybody can pay you is that, if they come and say, I really like this song because it reminds me of this, or they just connect with that song for whatever reason, be it the mood of it or the lyrical content or something. And I get that from time to time, and more now than I used to do. And that's, it's the coolest thing in the world.
Have you got a favourite line you've written?
A favourite line?
Yeah, in one of your songs?
No, I don't think so, no. A favourite line?
Something you've written and you thought, that's come from somewhere else. That's a great line.
Well, no, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I come up with ideas that I think are mine, and they're not. It's already been written by someone before. I mean, I think that first album I did for Thomas back in '98, I came up with this riff, and I thought it was the best riff in the world. And it basically went. I played it to my dad, and he went, "Yeah, that's Sweet Home Alabama, isn't it?" I said, "You what?" He went, and he said, "Listen to this." I was like, "Oh, right." But I still recorded it anyway.
Thanks, Dad. Yeah.
But it's just one of those things, isn't it? It's like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
If you could go back in time and give the younger you some advice, what would it be?
I don't know, because everything that's happened has led me to the place I am now, and I'm really happy and content in the place I am now. And I think if I'd taken a different path, I don't know, I wouldn't be sat here now, feeling happy about. I mean, I suppose I'm at this stage in my life, and I'm 43. I'm really settled. Really, you know, I'm happy in my life. You know, I do my music, which I love doing. I do it I'm in control of it, where everything's in house. I can tour as much as I want or as little as I want. I don't have to worry about paying the mortgage. That just takes care of itself. And I suppose if I went back, I mean, it's like all these things. It's like one of these films where you go back and you change one thing, it changes the whole course of your life. Then I'm the person I am now because of all the things I've experienced, I think. So in terms of my professional career, would I change anything? I would maybe have started doing the music thing more seriously sooner. Like, instead of going to get a job, I would probably maybe have done that. But the thing is, if you look at that, like when I left school between 18 and 21, I didn't have to worry about earning a living from music. That wasn't an issue. I could just go out and play music, earn a few quid, but I wasn't living off it. I had a job which gave me a monthly salary that paid my rent or whatever. Whereas if I'd have had to rely on the music to give me those first 3 years of income, I might have gone under and struggled. And because I could just concentrate on just doing the gigs I wanted and enjoy it, it meant I could build up a decent fan base without having to worry about the financial side of it. So like I say, every way you look at it, well, I could have done that, but this would have happened. So, yeah. So
did you pay your band differently to you then back then? Because you had a paying job and the gigs?
We all had paying jobs. Nobody.
Oh, okay.
Nobody did it full time.
Because I thought you could have done door deals, you know, and obviously guaranteed your musicians a salary and sort of done it for playing in front of a certain audience, you know, in a key area.
No, well, I mean, it wasn't until I actually went professional that we all went professional. But before that, it was kind of just everybody had jobs. Just people just played at the weekends or just played in the evenings, and then, you know, went home, had 2 hours sleep, and got off at work. But no. So we all had jobs. So,
if you could change anything about the music industry, what would it be?
If I could change anything about the music industry,
yeah.
I don't know. That's a really difficult one, because the one thing with the music industry is that it is an industry, and it's not just about the people who are the most talented get the furthest. It's not about that. You've got to be good at what you do. You've got to be talented. You've got to have, you've got to be able to perform. That's a given. Obviously, to do music for a living, it's a given that you've got to be good at what you do. But there's a massive part of the music industry which is a business, and when you get involved with record labels, and when you just start, things go on to a bigger level where bigger tours, there's more crew, all this sort of thing. It's a business. There's money to be made, and there's, the more money coming in, there's more people around that want to take it, and that whole side of it. And probably for most musicians, they're the same. A lot of people don't enjoy that side of it. I've never enjoyed that. But, in recent years, with the the internet and social media. Now you have to be present on social media. You can't not be on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all that sort of stuff, because if you don't, you're missing out. And it's for the working musician, it's a great way to market what you do and to advertise what you do, but it's not just about music. And I think that's the thing that is a frustration for a lot of musicians, because people just, if you're an artist or a performer or a musician, you want to just make music, and you just think, if I make music and write songs and perform and it's good enough, then it's going to do well. Well, it's not, because there's a whole other load of stuff that goes into it. And I've had to learn that over the years, that, like I say, just being good at what you do, it's not enough. You've got to be able to wear lots of different hats. And like I say, with social media, I've kind of jumped on that a couple of years ago. I realised that loads of other people are doing it, and I thought, Instagram, Facebook, I can't be arsed with that. Which, no disrespect to the people that want to see me on there, but I just thought, well, why do I need to go on Facebook, and why do I need to tell people what I'm doing? But it's the way now that the modern world, it's where people find out. People don't go on websites now; they just go on Facebook or Instagram. And if sometimes, I'll get messages from people on Instagram saying, I don't know where you're playing, but I've got a website. It's got all my tour dates on. But people will just message me on Instagram sometimes and just say, I didn't realise you were playing down the road, because I've not seen it on Instagram or Facebook. So everything's got to be in sync. Everything's got to be up to date. And, and that side of it for me is, it's just one of those things. You have to go with it.
What about Spotify and the likes of digital downloads?
It's a bit like YouTube in a way. I mean, I used to get a bit knocked off at people coming to gigs and filming stuff and putting it on the internet, because I thought it's going to be rubbish quality. They're leaning over the monitors, so all they're going to get is a load of vocal, or it's going to be distorted, it's going to look terrible, and they're going to put it on the internet, and that's what people will see. But then you realise that sometimes people come to gigs and they've discovered you on YouTube. They were just surfing one day and you came up and they're like, oh, wow, I've got to go and see. And then they've bought a ticket and they've come to see you because they've seen you on YouTube, or they've heard you on Spotify. And if they had to pay 12 quid to buy your album, they probably wouldn't have bothered. But the fact that they might have heard you through, Spotify or streaming, whatever, or YouTube, where it's not cost them anything, so they can check out who you are, what you do, with no financial investment. And then if they like it enough, they can then decide to either buy your albums or come to your live show. And people do. So I know there's a lot of artists that hate Spotify. I'm not a huge fan, but I realise that it's the world we live in, and a lot of time people won't take a punt on something they don't know. So a lot of the time, if somebody says, go and see this Aynsley Lister, he's really, really good, the average person will probably think, well, I've never heard of him, I'll check him out on Spotify, I'll go on YouTube. But would they buy an album without knowing if I'm any good or not? Probably not. Some people would. But,
so how would you put a new release straight out on Spotify then, or would you leave it some time to give people buy it first? Like off the website.
I'm not 100% sure how we deal with that, actually, because it's a couple of years since we did an album. I think it's not, a lot of that stuff is down to the distributors. They kind of decide when things are going to be released and how. And they work with these, I think they're called aggregators or something, the people that upload the stuff, and I think they manage all that. So they normally have some kind of a strategy with that. Because one of the things with Straight Talkin Records, although it's everything me and Steph, jointly own the label, and Steph runs a label, there's a lot of people, like the distribution. We just, if the distributor wants to send a load of CDs out to Amazon or Play.com or whatever, we just send one lot to one place, and then they do all that other work, or the upload. That's how it works like that. So.
Okay. Well, moving on to your guitar weekends. First, saw you doing an article, I think, in one of the Guitarist magazines years and years ago.
All right. Okay.
I don't know. I can't remember which magazine it was now. And is that where it started from? You doing that sort of path?
I got asked to do a guitar week, I think it was in 2005, 2006 maybe, I'd done a couple of things for guitar magazines, a couple of tuitional things, and I just got asked to go and do this thing called IGF, which stands for International Guitar Foundation or Federation or something. And it was like a week-long summer school in Bath, in Wiltshire. And I was asked to go and teach blues level 2. And there was another guy there called Matt Schofield, and he was oh no, actually, I'll tell you right, the first year I went, Ian Siegel was teaching blues level 3 guitar.
Right.
And I'd never done a workshop before. But at that point I didn't know any theory. I just knew I could play. I knew what I was doing when I was playing. I knew why I would play, but I didn't know the theory behind it. So I went, and it was like all these things. You just, if you're not sure how to do something, agree to do it and then figure it out later. I kind of took that approach. And about 2 or 3 days before, I made some kind of a plan of how I was going to break it down. And that first week-long course, it's probably about 2006, I think, 2005, 2006. And then I got asked back the next few years. And then we just started doing our own about 6-7 years ago. And which we run in, again, like the label, we just run it in the house. We just, not in our house, but we hire a nice venue with, nice rooms, nice restaurant, and a big live room. And over the weekend, it's normally a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. During the daytimes, I teach like a workshop thing. We have up to 25 people, guitarists, that come along with their guitar, and they can bring their missus if they want, and the missus can go off into the spa and steam room, which is, we always work with nice venues, so they've got lots of facilities if people want to bring their partners. And the guys just spend all day and evening with me and the band. And in the evening we have jam sessions where people can get up and play, and I kind of guide people through it, and we do exercises and stuff. And it's great fun, really, really good fun.
How many of them a year do you do?
Well, the last couple of years we've been doing 2 or 3, but it's something that we've never advertised it. It's never something that we've outwardly done any marketing on. They're kind of just word of mouth, and they always sell out. So we are planning to do more. I mean, we were actually due to do one just before the lockdown, but people started to sort of pull out because of the social distancing thing, and then the venue decided they were closing, so the whole thing just it's been put off until we can obviously reconvene at some point, hopefully. But so we're probably going to do, well, it's always at least 2 a year, maybe 3 or 4. And we've had requests to do a songwriting one as well, so people are sort of asking about songwriting, how it works, how to do demos in Logic, that sort of thing. So that's another one we're going to do at some point.
I saw you had some old amps, 1979 Marshall. You had 2. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Blow 'em.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is the latest thing actually. This is well, I'll tell you about that in a minute. Yeah, I've got a couple of old Marshalls, 79 JMP Marshalls, which they're a rare model that Marshall only made about 200 of them. I've got 2. It's another 198 to find. But it's basically a master volume JMP, but it's got onboard reverb, which most of the JMPs don't have. And I like reverb on all the time, even if it's just a little bit. So I always like Marshalls, but most of the older Marshalls, like the Super Leads and stuff, don't have reverb. So I always kind of went towards Fender amps. But then I found these Marshalls. Well, I found just one to start with in Switzerland. I think it was in 2001. And it was the best amp I'd ever played in my life. And I got it for the equivalent of about 200 quid. And I used it for the next 5 or 6 years. And it was only when I took it to Marshall one day in Milton Keynes, the actual Marshall factory, for a service. I needed some new tubes and a bit of a clean up and stuff. And the guy sort of opened it up and sort of looking at it. And he said, he said, oh, well, that's not right. That's not supposed to be there. And basically the circuit had been like messed about with. And this is the first I knew of it. I just knew it as this great sounding Marshall amp that people will come up to me at gigs and go, "How do you get that sound out of a Marshall?" Marshalls are normally quite gritty and quite scratchy sounding. Certainly the older ones, if you don't set them right. But this amp, you could really crank up the treble, and it still sounded warm and fat and juicy. And I said, "Well, I don't know. It sounds good. What's wrong with it?" He says, "Well, on the scope, they plug it into I think it's called an oscilloscope, and it gives you a frequency readout. And he said it looks more like a Fender amp to me. He said it doesn't look anything like a Marshall. Does it sound any good?" And I said, "It sounds great." And he said, "Well, I'll service it and I'll do what I need to do. And then as long as it passes the safety test, you can go on your way and you're all good to go." And half an hour later, he brought it out into the waiting room. And he said, "Have you got a guitar with you?" I said, "Oh, yeah, I've got one in the van." He says, "Go and get it." He said, "I'm interested to know what this actually sounds like." Because when they service them, they don't actually plug in. They just don't plug a guitar in. It's looking at numbers and stuff on multimeters and that. And I brought my guitar in, my old red Strat. And I plugged it in. I said, "Yeah, it sounds like this." And he kind of jumped. He was like, "Whoa." He says, "Yeah, I see what you mean." He said, "It doesn't sound anything like what I'm used to hearing." He says, "We have Marshalls through here all day." And he said, "I've never heard one sound like that." He said, "I can see why you like it." He says, "Well," "off you go then." And then so I just started to look for another one. And I found another one of these, the same model. And then when I got it, I had it modified so it had all the same changes and all the same mods and tweaks and stuff. And they're about 5-10% different, but they're pretty much same thing. And that's what I've used for most of my professional career. And then a couple of years ago, I started working with an amp company in Brackley, North Ants, called Rift Amps. And me and Chris were always talking about amps, and he was quite interested in this Marshall. And I would take it to him for servicing and stuff now instead of Marshall. And he was I think he was just quite intrigued by it. And he just said, "Look," he said, "there's obviously not many of these around." He said, "And the ones that are around," he said, "they're all going to be stock. They're not going to be modified like these. So they're going to sound totally different." And he said, "Why don't we try and build something like it?" And I was like, nah, we don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. But then on my guitar weekends, I've always got at least one of the Marshalls with me. And the amount of times people have plugged into it and kind of gone, "Whoa, where can I get one of these?" And well, you can't, because there's only these two. And I wouldn't, I won't tell anyone what the mods and tweaks are, because it's obviously it's kind of a bit of a secret. Well, obviously Chris at Rift Amps has been inside it, so he knows what makes it tick. And we've talked about it a bit, and after a while I said, "Well, look, you know what? I'm always getting asked by people where they can get an amp that does what these Marshalls do." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "All right, okay, let's make one. Let's build one." So we basically used the Marshall as like the basis, the circuit. And then we kind of just tweaked it and changed it and modified it and improved it and added a few extra features, which is that's basically that one.
Okay.
So that's based on my old Marshalls, but with a few kind of like extra things. It's got like an effects loop and just one input instead of like four. How many? It's got 2 or 3 or 4. And it kind of it weighs half the weight of my Marshall, because she's just got one speaker in it. And we released that a couple of years ago, and now it's available to buy
Okay.
from Anderton's in Guildford. So, yeah.
Okay, so if people want to find out more about your weekends and your amps and everything, is it your website the best place to go to?
Yeah. My website is just AynsleyLister.co.uk. I will warn you though that my website is. We've had a problem with the server for the last year, and we are in the process of having a new website built. So although my current one is still live, and the information about the amp and the guitar weekends will be on there, sometimes the server decides to go to sleep and cause us problems. So if you go on my website and suddenly it looks like it's not been updated for 3 years, then we're having problems with the server. But it is in hand, and we are looking into it. So that's all going to be new website to go with the new album, I think. So.
And have you got any riffs and that you want to share little bits off the new album that's coming?
Well, every time I try and play something on this call, I get the wrong fret, don't I? Have I got anything I want to play?
Little teasers.
Little teasers. Ooh, you're asking now. Do you know what? My mind's gone blank. I can't think of any. I must have written 25 songs. No, I'm not going to give you anything because I can't remember any of them. But
you got any bluesy ones on there?
Any bluesy ones? There is. There's a real mixture of stuff on the new album. A bit like most of my albums. I don't just do, a load of shuffles or a load of blues. There'll be some blues stuff on there. Where there's a couple of proper guitar workouts, like sort of bluesy, slow blues things. There's some real song-based stuff, and some quirky stuff as well. I mean, I've got one thing I will say, just as a bit of a teaser, is I've done it a couple of times. Like I say, there's a song called Il Grande Mafioso that I wrote on the last album, which was based off no film in particular, but I wrote it with the idea of kind of a collection of my favourite films, and kind of just it was a fabricated scene that I wrote about. But on the new album, there are going to be at least one song about a very recent TV series that has been on, about an assassin. That's all I'm going to say. And I kind of got really into that series, and I've wrote a couple of songs, so at least one of them is going on the album. And again, it's a bit like the Mafioso song, where it's kind of sets the scene and the music kind of goes with the lyrics, and it's a bit kind of biographical, where it's about the characters and their interaction, their kind of dialogue on screen. So at least one of those is going on the album, possibly two. Oh, okay. So, but all I'll say is it's a series about an assassin, a female one, and just got really, really into it. I think it's a fantastic series, and there's some stuff coming.
Oh, okay. Well, you mentioned TV. What books are you reading?
Books?
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm reading books on how to navigate Logic Pro X, because I'm really good with guitar stuff, like the technical side of that. But when it comes to recording and stuff, I love the whole process, but I'm not great with computers. So when I'm doing my demos, when I'm writing, I use Logic, and I use it at a fairly sort of basic level. But I've just, it's like anything, you want to sort of get better at what you're doing. So I've just been, just looking into some of that. And
what's your interface then into the Logic?
It's a Focusrite 2i2 Scarlett thing.
Oh, okay.
Nothing fancy, because what I've got here at home is essentially it's like a demo suite. It's not to record out. I mean, I wouldn't actually record anything in here that I was going to, release. I mean, I could do, and I have done. I do occasionally do a few remote recording things. So I have got the equipment to record vocals or guitars, but I certainly couldn't have a whole band in there. So
no.
And
do you plug the guitar straight into the Focusrite, or do you mic the guitar up with the?
No, I mean, I've actually got my guitar. It's plugged into my little Princeton down here, my Fender Princeton, and I've just got a mic on it because I've been doing some online tuition via Zoom over the last few weeks, because obviously I can't do the workshops, so I had quite a lot of requests over the last few years actually to do online tuition, and I thought it would be a pain in the arse to set up all the cables and getting all the levels right. So I just never did it. And then obviously in lockdown, got plenty of time. So I thought, well, I'll just give it a go. And I've been doing it. So I've got like a vocal mic and my amp, and I just do the online tuition with Zoom, and it works great. So.
Okay. And if people want to find out more about that, is that the website?
There's nothing on the website at the moment, but so in terms of my main method of communication at the moment is I use Instagram. That's my main thing, and most of my Instagram feeds automatically share to my Facebook. So anybody who's interested in my latest goings on, Instagram and Facebook are definitely the best place to find out.
And if they fire you a message, that comes to you, and you can reply back with.
Yeah, I mean, everything comes directly to me or Steph. And I have put a couple of posts up recently about the tuition thing. So this, the last, certainly in the last 3 or 4 weeks, there's a couple of posts to let people know I'm doing it. And yeah, just send me a message, direct message, whatever you call it, DM. And just come straight to me. And I myself will reply.
What's your Desert Island disc?
My Desert Island disc. Ooh. I would probably say.
He's giving us the finger now. Look.
Yeah.
Shit.
I don't know. That's raw. You're asking these loaded questions. I would say probably Rumours by Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because it's. I mean, I always come back to that album because there's a reason it's one of the best selling albums of all time, because it's got so many different moods and content and substance on it. What I really like in music is, I mean, I started off as a guitarist and I started writing songs when I started trying to be a singer, artist, guitarist, whatever. Primarily because I could never find covers I was 100% happy with. I would always want to change the covers, either change the lyrics or change the key or change the guitar part. So I started writing. But one thing I'm always trying to do is, certainly as an artist now, I'm more about the material and the substance and the content of what's in the music rather than, bashing out another endless guitar solo. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love playing long guitar solos, but I think these days, maybe it's a maturity thing, I don't know, but my taste and my focus is different now. I say when I started out, it would, I could play a solo for 10 minutes. I would struggle to play one for 5 minutes now because I would get bored of myself and I think, no, I need to get back to the song. And because to me, a really long guitar solo is great, don't get me wrong, but it's not enough for me now. And so when I'm recording and, writing music, I want to put some decent substance and content and just good stories and good moods and melodies and stuff. So not only about the guitar.
Oh, that's cool. Do you have any other hobbies?
Yeah, I mean, other hobbies. I mean, I'm quite into health, and fitness and stuff like that. Although I probably don't look at it at the minute, but I'm quite into mountain biking. Although I don't generally get out a lot at the moment. Probably more now than I usually do. But I really like cycling. I've done a couple of coast to coast things and Steph as well. She's really into cycling, so that's one thing that we, when we get chance, when we get time, we do together. I used to race when I was younger, mountain bike racing. So I don't race anymore, but I do love bikes, taking them apart and fixing them. I like cooking, and just chilling out with the family, really.
So what's your go-to pedal then?
My go-to pedal, tuner.
That'd be your go-to pedal, yeah?
Pretty much. In terms of, so when I say I'm not a massive pedal user, if I'm doing, the one time I do use pedals is if I'm doing a fly-out gig and I can't take that or the Marshall, because the thing is, these amps, they've got all the overdrive and reverb and stuff, it's all in the amp, so you just need a guitar and a cable and a tuner. But if I'm doing a fly-out gig, I'm not going to get that. I'm going to get something like a Fender Twin or a Fender something. And obviously Fender amps are very, very clean. But I don't play clean. I like a bit of overdrive. So I'll take a pedal with me. And there's a couple that I take. There's one called a ZVEX Box of Rock, which is supposed to be like a Marshall in a box. Another one called a Charlie Brown, which is JHS, I think. And then there's another one I've been using recently, which is called Royal Blue Overdrive by Mad Professor.
Okay.
And that's cool. That's really good. But then the only other one I use is probably a clean boost pedal. So on a fly-out gig, I would use a tuner, an overdrive, and a clean boost. and I'll probably have the overdrive and the clean boost always on, and I'd basically just use my guitar volume to kind of clean it up or get the gritty stuff when you turn it up.
Okay.
But I don't use delays. I'm not. It's very rare I will actually, if I'm going to go and do a solo, I suddenly hit a pedal. I will normally just it's all on here. So
as these amps behind you, are they just one channel?
They're just one channel. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a one sound thing, but I get all the variations in the sounds I need by using all this stuff here, and obviously playing differently. And I kind of keep it simple, really. Some of my friends, I've got some incredible guitar player friends, and they've got, my mate, he's got a pedal board. You could probably pilot a plane with it. This thing, it's like flashes, it's huge. But you know what? He sounds amazing. You hear him playing acoustic guitar, and he's an incredible guitarist without any of that. But he knows how to dial it all in. And he's got all this stuff going on, but there's a reason it's all there, and that's how he does it, and he gets a great sound. If I had all that on, I would sound like, well, it wouldn't sound very good. So I just do what I know what I can do, and my thing is keeping my setup simple. So when I'm using these amps, I will have a tuner, stay in tune, and I'll have a clean boost, which I'll probably have kicked in most of the time, but it's just adding a little bit of extra volume going to the amp. So it's not adding any overdrive, it's just a bit of level. And that's pretty much it, really.
Okay. All right, what I normally do near the end is ask some quick fire questions. So just sort of quick answers to see what comes out, okay? So see how we go. So ask permission or ask forgiveness?
What was that?
Ask for permission or ask for forgiveness?
Ooh. Ask permission.
Better or easier?
Better.
Fender or Gibson?
Fender.
Stay or leave?
Stay.
What's the first thing you grab in the morning?
My guitar.
And are you a morning or night person?
I'd say I'm probably a morning person. It takes me a while to wake up in the morning, but once I'm up, I'm quite fresh and I'm more productive earlier in the day. In the evenings, I just want to chill out. I'm not in work mode. I'm not in let's do loads of stuff in the evening. Steph is the other way around. Like about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, she comes alive, and she's like, if she's having a work day, it will start at 3:30, but then it will go through till 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. By that point, I've already passed out several hours before. So, yeah, it works quite well.
Marmite, yes or no?
Yeah, love it. I have it every morning for breakfast at the moment.
That's good, man.
Cool.
So, yeah, if you want to give us a little bit of quick blues on your guitar.
All right, I'll try. Do you know, I'm actually going to get another guitar because I think this is a good bit out of tune. Hang on. Right, hang on. Oh. Right. Right, what do you want? Some blues?
Yes. Yeah, hit me up. it's Tommy Allen for TommyAllenMusic.com. That was Aynsley Lister. You can find out more about Aynsley at www.aynsleylister.co.uk. Next week we have the legend Mr. Walter Trout from USA, blues rock guitar player. Be right here, Tommy Allen Music, 7 o'clock next Wednesday to find out more. Please give us a like, hit the subscribe button. Until next week, a word from our director.